Welcome to our second partner learning lab. Today we're going over the WiSys packaging layer. I'm excited to have you guys here for this one. This is a lot of information and a really key part of our product. So you should get some good things out of this today. So I want to leave my camera on for introductions. So hi everybody. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off so you don't have to look at me and you can focus on what all we're going over. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Chase Linsenbigler. What I do here at WiSys is I manage all of our partner enablement. So basically, I'm working toward producing more content, more tools, more resources for anybody who uses our product this year. That's you guys first, our partners, as well as our customers. And a big part of that content is these learning labs. So if you guys weren't here last time, these learning labs will be the second Tuesday of each month, same time, 2:30 to 3:30 EST. And we also run it for our customers as well on the third Tuesday of each month. So, this one in particular, you may get some questions from some of your customers after the session next week. Be on the lookout for that. But today we should prepare you for anything that they might be asking you, so you won't be blindsided and you'll know what you might be hearing about afterward. Also, in addition to that, I'm a dedicated resource again for training. We try and train you as soon as you sign on as a partner, but continued training is a great thing to have with the WiSys product, just because there's so much to know and so much to continually learn. So I'm a resource here for you guys. Reach out and set something up if you feel like that's something you or your team needs. That's my job here at WiSys, so it is no problem at all. Feel free to reach out. And sessions like this today too, where you may have some more questions afterward that might not get answered today. That's another thing, reach out to me via email. I can answer questions for you. And if we need to set up a call to go through some things that are related to a session or something like that, more than happy to do it. Just let me know and we'll set something up. So why are we here today? What we're going to cover is everything related to packaging and WiSys. So we're going to start out with an overview of our Agility Pallets product and the WiSys packaging layer. So one thing that's really important to note here is, none of your customers will have any of the stuff that we're talking about today unless they have Agility Pallets, which is part of our enterprise product. And we're going to get into that discussion a little bit more later. But as I mentioned earlier, we're doing a customer session on this stuff next week as well. So you probably will get those questions. Do I have access to Agility Pallets, or why don't I have it? And if they have enterprise, they do. If they don't, it's because they don't have enterprise. So anybody who has enterprise can use this. Then after that, we're going to get into how we handle package types in Agility, all the different package types you can have, and how to set up a new package type from within Agility, which is one of the key parts to understanding packaging. Then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about what the data looks like, the tables it's housed in, because of course they're going to be WiSys specific tables, as this isn't native to SAP Business One. And we'll talk about the two types of packages that we typically use in Agility and how to create each of them. And we're going to gloss over inner packing at the end of this session. So key elements of the WiSys packaging layer. If you guys watched the video that went out with the email to this, you're going to recognize a little bit of this content here, but just some key things to keep in mind as we go through this process today and talk about packaging. Number one, again, this comes with Agility Pallets, which is part of the enterprise product. That's how a customer obtains it. It is not a part of, just the standard. If you have just the basic WiSys or just WiSys with design tools, you do not have Agility Pallets. You have to have the enterprise version. This works for unlimited package types, which we're going to get into all in a minute here. And how package types and packaging in WiSys works is it allows us to assign a license plate to several unique items in the system. And that includes serial and batch tracked items as well. So a single package, a pallet, a carton, whatever your package is, it could have a variety of different non-serial or batch tracked items. It could have two different serialized items. It could have one serialized item with multiple serials. It could have, two different batch tracked items, or even a mixture of, maybe two batch items, two serial items, two non-tracked items. Really any item in your system, it can be assigned to a package in WiSys, and then it will have that license plate for just a different higher layer there of grouping for your items, and you know, it allows you to easily move those items together and group them in the WiSys system. And this is a very important process for our shipping. So if you have any customers who are shipping through WiSys or are using Fulfillment Manager to ship without Agility Shipping, they are utilizing packages to do so. And that is a key cog in our shipping process. And we're going to talk all about that today. And then again, it is all tracked in WiSys specific tables. So, you know, this data is not native to SAP Business One. While some things we're doing are, you know, of course, very similar to language we use in B1 and write back and forth and vice versa, this data is all WiSys specific and will be tracked in WiSys specific tables. So now before we kind of get into, you know, all the tables and package information, we're going to jump over to Agility Explorer here, and we're going to look at what packages are in WiSys and how to create them. So we're going to go up to File from within Agility Explorer. We're going to go to Packing and Shipping. And from within Packing and Shipping, we're going to go to our package types here. So within WiSys, upon installation, you're going to have two package types, pallet and carton. And as you can see underneath of each, we can add, you know, any sizes. So if your customer has 50 different size cartons, that can all be added instead of having to have a specific package type for each. You know, we can go in here and identify, okay, we have a couple of different sizes for a carton, and you know, we can make sure that those are entered in here and tracked from within the WiSys system. But anyway, upon installation, customers have cartons and pallets. Those are the only two package types that have specific forms and specific use cases in the WiSys-based product. But that isn't to say that we don't support other package types, because we most definitely do. We have a lot of customers today that are, you know, using other package types that, you know, maybe sometimes are a little bit more unique, or even things like just container management. We support container management. And those are some of the things that we're going to look at here today. So if you have a customer who uses something that isn't a pallet or carton, the first step is going to be adding it to the WiSys system here. So we go down to new type, click this little arrow here. That's where you would add a new size for your specific package, but we're going to be creating a whole new package type. You need to assign it a code. So I'm going to do container management here. I think that's probably the most universal package that doesn't come with WiSys directly. Typically, when we use container management, our consultants usually code it as CONT. Going to give it a description, container. I'm just going to copy and paste that into the display description. And of course, pretty self-explanatory here, but you know, your description can have more detail, where the display description is what the user is going to see. So, you know, of course, if you're going in here and setting it up for users and you don't want them to see some information, but you still want it to be in the description, you would leave that information up here in the description, and anything you want a user to see will just be in this display description here. So now that's all I needed to do here. I could add some more information for height and weight and different things, but we can also do that by utilizing those package sizes. So for today's exercise, we're just going to put it in as container and call it a day there. And now you can see that's added to my package types, pretty easy. And again, I could add, you know, basically anything I want to in here. I've seen people do bottles, people do bags. You know, it depends on the type of business your customer has, but if they want to track it using a license plate in WiSys, they can just set up whatever package type necessary in here. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And there's one more important step to this process here. So anytime you add a package type in WiSys, we have to jump back over to SAP Business One and add that package type there. So from within SAP, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, but I'm going to go to Modules, Administration, Setup, Inventory, and to my package types. And here I'm going to add the code the exact same way we added it in WiSys. So that's just going to be a capital CONT. And then that is all I need to add right now. Again, I didn't do any length, width, height information there. So I'm just going to add it as CONT, call it a day. And now my new package type is set up from within WiSys and SAP Business One. Now, 2 points I want to make about this before we move on from, creating package types and how WiSys handles package types. Number one, we are considering for development, trying to look at a way for this to automatically come over to SAP Business One. I typically get questions from the partners about things like that. That is something that we're looking into and looking at as a potential upgrade to our software there, so that you don't have to go back in the product in case you forget or something like that. So just keep in mind that we're aware of that and potentially working toward that. And number two, if you create these package types, as seen me reference earlier, out of the box still, the system only handles pallets and cartons. Now it's a very easy tailoring, and we can talk all about that more in the future. If this is something you need to do, reach out to me and we'll set up some time to talk about it. But basically, any form that is pallet specific, right? So if you go on the handheld and you use, our pack pallets form, it's just passing in this package type PLT at some point, typically in the action. And all we would have to do is change everywhere where it's passing in or looking at PLT to pass in or look at CONT. So if any of you guys are familiar with our Form Studio or our design tools, changing the package types, the tailoring aspect of the forms is as easy as, just switching out the original package type it looks at to be your new package type. And then you probably want to change the name. So if it were the pack pallets form, of course, after you change it to only look at cartons, you probably want to, or containers, you probably want to change the form to be called pack containers. But yeah, pretty simple. It's very easy to, tailor the WiSys systems to support a foreign package type of some sort. All right, so that's what package types look like and how they're set up from within WiSys. So now let's get familiar here with the package data. So I'm going to go to my inventory palette view grid. That's an inventory in Agility Explorer. In this grid here, even though it says inventory palette view, it does pull in any package types. So you can see here, it pulls in cartons and pallets and gives us that ability to filter through. So customers who use multiple different package types, of course, this is helpful. Now, let's say in the case that you create your own package type like a container, and that's all your customer uses. Again, if they're not accidentally creating pallets or cartons in the system, this is only going to show containers still. And that'll be identified here in this package type column. And if it were confusing, we could easily change the name from inventory palette view to inventory container view or what have you. But pretty simple in here. What we're going to notice is package types are sequential. So when you get your WiSys system installed, we start at 1, work our way up. And that is not going to be unique to the specific package type. So if the first package you build in WiSys is a carton, that's going to start at number 1. Then let's say you build 10 pallets after that, your pallets are going to be numbers 2 through 11, and so on and so forth. They will all use the same generic numbering system there from within WiSys, and it's just going to go sequentially from 1. And now here we just see, package data, pretty simple, what you would expect here. We're looking at, a package number, package type, package sequence number as well. And then we're getting into, some of the line information, what specific items are there, the quantities, the bin the package is sitting in. So that's the bin the actual carton or pallet is sitting in the WiSys system, the date created, lots of information here. And we're going to talk about this information a little bit more as we get into the tables. But before we get there, I wanted to highlight a couple of key packages here in my system. So first, I'm going to go to 257. So 257 is a good example, going back to that serial and batch tracked information that we discussed. Here you can see a pallet that has 2 of this one item with 2 different serials, another serial tracked item, and then a batch tracked item with 2 different batches for that specific item. So you can see the combination there. I have some other similar ones here in my system as well. So like pallet 56 here, we're looking at, a variety of different serial tracked items and different serials, as well as an item that's non-serial or batch tracked. And then we have, something pretty similar here for pallet 88 as well. where we're looking at 2 different batch tracked items and something that's non-serial or batch tracked. So I wanted to just show you guys though, because I think it's hard to visualize that at first, but you know, these palettes, they really can have any combination of items in the system, and that information is pretty easy to decipher in here. So it should be pretty low confusion once the customer sets something up. If there's some serial and batched items, some non-serial and batch tracked, that all should be pretty clear from within here in this inventory palette view grid. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual meat of it, the tables and what the data looks like. And for those of you that don't live out of SQL, we're not going to go too far with this today, but it's important before we get into the rest of this session. So, all right, so with our WiSys packaging tables, number one, let me preface this by saying I am looking at views here today. So we have views and we have tables in WiSys for all the packaging stuff. We typically look at views because the naming conventions are more standard to WiSys and some of our other past products. So I know I'm saying tables, but I'm looking at views, and this is what you should probably be looking at too. Typically when you're trying to query information, I would just look at our WiSys views. So here from within package information, we have 3 main views or tables that we want to look at. So first we have WSPKG. That's going to be our package header information. That's any information that relates to the package as a whole. So, your package number, your package type, what bin the package is in, that data is going to be in WSPKG. Then of course we go to WSPKG line, where what we're looking at there is every line item in that package, and details for that specific item. And then lastly, WSPKGSL is going to show serial and lot information for each line item that exists in that package. So just to show you those real quick, I'm going to go ahead and open up SQL Management Studio. I'm on SQL here, not HANA. And first, I'm just going to drop in a query to take a look at WSPKG. All right. All right, so here within WSPKG, again, this is the package header information. So we see our package number, our package type, which are really the 2 key details to each package. But something I wanted to identify here as well is we have a unique package identification number. So we do allow you to reset the package numbering so that, let's say for whatever reason, the customer wanted to start from number 1 every year. You could have 2 packages with the same package number in the WiSys system, but they all will have a unique package identification number. And that's what we typically want to, relate back to whenever we're looking at things in SQL or querying SQL to look at package data. We want to make sure to use that unique alphanumeric package identification number. And again, just this is information that relates to the package as a whole. So things like bin, the size, we have EAN numbers, all that stuff. This is just general package information, as well as if it's on a shipment, that will also be in this table here. Then if we go ahead over to WSPKG line, again here, one of the key differences is we'll see each package specifically will have multiple lines if it has multiple items packed in it. We have our line number, so we can see here that this package has 3 different items, 3 different lines, but each line is then assigned its own package line ID. So again, that unique identification number, and that's how we're going to relate it to our serial and lot table as well. But here, once again, this is just standard line information, item description, quantity, and other item details here. Okay, and then lastly, WSPKGSL, the least amount of information of the 3, but still very important if you're doing serial and lot tracked items. Again, it relates back to that package line ID, and what we're looking at there is just your simple serial lot stuff. So we have our serial and lot number, manufacturer, serial and lot, effective date, expiration date, and quantity. one other key element here. If you wanted to query all three tables, something very similar to what that grid does for you, if you want to see data across the board, this is how we would join the tables here. So we would join the tables again on that unique package identification number to join the line to the package header. And then we would use that unique package line identification number to join the line to the serial and lot data. And now what you'll see here is that I have pulled all that information together similar to how that grid did. So pretty simple there. That's where the meat of the data really comes in with packaging. But it is important to note that we do have package tracking in our tables as well, and that's going to be really important for you guys going forward too. Typically, customers will run into issues, hey, this package got deleted or let down in the system. Who did that? When did it happen? Package gets assigned to the wrong shipment. How did that happen? Who did it? When did it happen? Those types of things. So we have our WiSys package tracking tables, and that's going to be WSPKG TRX for transactions. Think of that more so like every specific package transaction. Okay, there's a record for this transaction, and we're just looking over time to see every movement that happens. And then we have WSPKG audit, which this information is very, very similar between the two tables. You can almost use them interchangeably, but WSPKG audit has a little more actual package information in the table. So you can look at that one more so like tracking the life cycle of the specific package, right? So you can see every movement, everything that happened to that package. It's a little bit easier to do that in WSPKG audit, where WSPKG transaction might be a little bit better for looking at every transaction performed by a certain employee, in a certain time window or something along those lines. And just to show you those real quick, go ahead and pull up my query here. Actually, sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble clicking too. I have one arm today. If you guys didn't notice, I had a surgery, so I'm slowed down a tiny bit here. All right. So we're going to query WSPKG TRX. And again, what we're looking at here is every transaction that takes place with packages in the system. They're assigned a transaction type. These are the three most common that you'll see is the creation of the package, the bin changing for the package, and the line add. You're going to see those all the time because typically if a customer is using packages, they're constantly adding them and adding items to them. But there are some other options in here as well. Let me see if I scroll down here, you can see moving the package. So, a bin change takes place when you create the package, and then a move takes place later, destroying if they're letting down a package, and all kinds of different actions in here. While WSPKG audit, as we'll see, showcases a little bit more package specific information here. So we can actually find the package ID from within there, the shipment number it relates to, and look at the specific movements. So if I scroll away to the end, we can look at the specific actions and movements that have taken place with those packages. So again, we're auditing a package's life cycle here, where in the other situation with WSPKG TRX, we're looking at all those package transactions. So one last thing I want to highlight with those, something that we are looking to add to the system are some grids to allow you to easily access that information. So I figured I'd highlight that here quickly. I had created some on my own that, again, it just displays the information in the tables, but it makes it so that you have a grid there. You don't have to query our data all the time. And we are planning on adding these to the base product eventually here, but pretty simple. This is WSPKG TRX. So we're looking at transactions. I put in a range of packages if I knew there was an issue somewhere in there. In this package range, I put that in, and then I binned the specific actions so you can just find the action you're looking for. What packages got created on this day by a certain user, because I know they were messing some things up. Drill down into that, and now we can see, the package number, the transaction type that took place, the date, the time, the person who did it, that type of information there. All right. And one last table to talk about here. So this all relates directly again to WSPKG shipment table, shipping in WiSys. And that WSPKG shipment table, that encompasses everything from whether they have agility shipping or not. If they just do standard LTL shipping and they don't use agility shipping, all their shipments are still tracked in that same shipment table there. And that all relates to the WSPKG table, once again here through our shipment number. So if we go ahead and throw this query in here, so what I'm simply doing is I'm dropping a query in here that allows us to look at a package and then see related shipment information based on the package's shipment number. So we can see here we join our package shipment table to our package table on that shipment number there, and we're able to access that shipping table as well and see all the information, select the ship to state, and drill down into that package a bit more. Now, this is really crucial as we discuss the two main types of packages that I referenced earlier. So when I say two main types, I guess maybe I could change that a little bit to be something like two main styles. But in WiSys, there's really two ways that we track and handle these packages. One would be shipping packages. So that's these packages you see in this table here that have a shipment number. They relate directly to shipping from WiSys. They have shipment information, and that shipment actually becomes kind of the header piece of information in that example, right? So it's another layer to join packages together, join a group of packages, and of course their corresponding items all together in general. So when you have a shipping pallet or a shipping cart and a shipping package, so to speak, we actually theoretically could move all those items based off of the shipment number. They are all grouped together now because of the shipment number, and that becomes that header piece of information. And that is compared to our other style of package, where if we just go back to our package table here, our other style of package, which I would just call an inventory package. So if I scroll down, you'll see some packages are handled with a shipment number of 0. That would be an inventory package in the system. Those are packages just created to sit in inventory. Essentially, I'm sure you guys have all had customers who, utilize packages just out there on the warehouse floor. Maybe every item they have is palletized, and then maybe they even tear down the pallet to ship, and they just ship in a carton or something like that. Any tracking of packages just in inventory does not have to have a shipment number assigned, so it gets assigned a 0 in WiSys, and that's what we would call an inventory package, where the highest piece of information, the header information, is just that package number, and it is in no way grouped with any other packages through a shipment number or anything like that. And those are the two main types of packages that we will create here in WiSys, ones that are, again, attached to a shipment, and those others that are not attached to a shipment, which is what I would call an inventory package. Now, out of the box, there's a variety of different ways to create those two types of packages. On the handheld only for inventory packages, and we have options on the handheld and desktop for shipping packages. So I'm going to jump back over to Agility Explorer, my handheld here, and we're going to go through creating those different styles of packages. So we're going to start with inventory packages, again, packages that are not related to any shipments. There are two ways to do this out of the box with WiSys. They are both from the handheld again, and that is pallet build multiple and pallet builder. Now, before we get into those, I want to preface, a lot of you guys have actually probably used this at some of your customers. It's very common, but a common tailoring we see is if you have a customer who utilizes inventory pallets, typically they probably already have pallets built in their warehouse whenever they implement WiSys. So we'll often tailor things like a grid that allows them to mass create pallets or something like that. That's very common, a relatively easy tailoring, and things like that do happen with WiSys frequently. But out of the box, the 2 ways to build them are right here on the handheld. So first, let's take a look at pallet builder here. So pallet builder, pretty simple and pretty self-explanatory. We're just building a single pallet. And again, this is going to be an inventory pallet that does not relate to shipping in any way, shape, or form. So to do so, I'm going to hit enter here on the pallet line to trigger a new pallet to be created. I'm going to scan in my item, and then I'm going to find a bin. Now this bin is going to be where that pallet is created in the system as well. So when we showed in the tables that package header always has a bin assigned, again, this is going to be that bin. So wherever you create your pallet when you're doing this, that's going to be the bin it's assigned, and then you can go and transfer it later. But you know what bin you select here, that's where that pallet's located in WiSys when it's first created. So we're just going to go to O5D here, and I'm going to enter in a quantity of, we'll say 6. Now, pretty simple, I just created this pallet 10078. And if I jump back to my inventory pallet view here, sort and refresh, we'll see our new pallet here, 10078. And again, it has that shipment number of 0 because it is not a shipping pallet. It is just a simple inventory pallet. The other option for creating this in the WiSys system is pallet build multiple, which again, pretty self-explanatory. We're building multiple pallets here as compared to just building one single one. We can do this by scanning the item, entering in our bin, which I'm just going to do the same bin, O5D. And then we're going to identify the quantity on each pallet. So we'll go ahead and do 6 again, and then the total number of pallets that we're creating. So what I'm telling it here is I'm creating pallets of 6 total items, and then I'm going to do 10 of those pallets. So what we're going to see is, 60 individual items from this bin O5D are now going to be palletized. And when I refresh my grid, I'm going to see 10 new pallets of 6 in my system. So I'm going to go ahead and save here. That triggers an automatic print of a label too, but we're not going to worry about that today in today's session. That would print a label for each of those 10 pallets that were created. Now, if I go ahead and refresh here, we'll see on top of that 10078 that we created, here's our 10 new inventory pallets. None are assigned a shipment. All have, a quantity of 6 on each pallet. So pretty self-explanatory and simple, but that's the ways that you can create inventory pallets out of the box. Again, it's fairly common that, customers look for a tailored grid to maybe bulk create pallets when they first implement WiSys, something along those lines, but we do have those 2 options on the handheld. Now we'll jump over to shipping pallets and how to create those. So first, you can do this from the desktop. This is the only way to create pallets from the desktop or cartons, any type of package. We can do that through Fulfillment Manager here. That's in Sales AR, Fulfillment Manager, and that is also where shipments are handled. Again, the shipment becomes the header piece of information for the package. So from within here, when we search up a shipment, we can find, again, all those pallets that are sitting on that shipment. So I'm just going to create a new shipment here. And one more thing that I kind of forgot to mention there, with those inventory packages that aren't attached to a shipment, I'm sure you noticed we have 2 options for creating pallets out of the box. There are no options for creating cartons out of the box. So if by chance, it's not very common, but if by chance you had a customer that, they package everything in their warehouse into cartons, that is not available out of the box. But again, it's as simple as tailoring, like that pallet builder form that we looked at. It would be as simple as passing in the package type as CTN instead of PLT. Now, from within Fulfillment Manager, we can create a pallet, we can create a carton, simply here from the desktop. So let's just go ahead and make a carton. Now I created the empty carton in the system, 10089. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add an item to it. So I'm going to scan my order number here. I'm going to scan my item. Now it's going to default to my staging bin because, again, This is our, kind of shipment portal, so to speak, on the desktop. So it's looking for a staging bin where you're staging your shipments and getting those items ready to go out. So now in my staging bin, I'm looking at this item, FD021. I'm going to do a single item of it, and it is serial tracked. So I'll just go ahead and find a serial here. All right. Now we're ready to go. And that carton is packed onto shipment number 243. So as you see here, just on the desktop at a shipping station or something along those lines, I just created a shipment and packed a carton onto the shipment. And if I go ahead and refresh my inventory palette view, we'll see the same thing here. We'll see that carton added at the top of the list, 100089. But in this case, again, it has a shipment number assigned, and that is really the only key difference. It was also a serialized item. So you see that data here tracked in serial/batched. But we can also create these types of pallets and cartons on the handheld as well. And in this case, there are options for both shipping cartons and shipping pallets on the handheld device. So first, going with pallets, we'll look at pack pallets. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to either create a shipment or add a pallet to a shipment. In the case of creating a new shipment, we of course would also create a new pallet because the shipment is that header piece of information there. But for today's exercise, I'm just going to add this pallet to shipment I already created. So jump back here. We're looking at shipment 243. And then I want to create a new pallet here. So I'm just going to hit enter on this line for new pallet, scan my order, scan my item, and then I'm going to go ahead and find a bin here. And I'm just going to do, we'll just do 2 of the item. Again, very similar to what we looked at before. This is asking me how many labels I want to print individually, and we're not going to worry about labels today because that'll just slow us down. Now it's created our pallet in the system, this 100090, and very similar to the create pallets form we did earlier. The exact same use case there. We created the pallet, added it to that specific shipment. We did have the ability to create a new shipment there as well from the handheld, but we knew what shipment we wanted it on, so we created a shipping pallet there. And basically the same exact thing for cartons, but in distribution this time because we don't consider cartons a part of pallets. Of course, because the pallet's name is self-explanatory and that could cause a little bit of confusion. So from within distribution, we go to pack cartons. Once again, I'm going to use our same shipment number here of 243. I'm going to hit enter on carton, scan my order, scan my item, and I will just do the same bin, 05D. And then I'm going to do 2 of my item again. And again, real fast, real simple. What we did there was we created a new carton from scratch. So we created that carton header information in WSPKG. We added lines to it, creating WSPKG line. In this case, there's no serial or lot record. But so we created the header, we created the line, and then we also added all of that information to our shipping table. So if I refresh this here now, we're going to see the pallet we made as well as that carton that we just made added to our shipment here. So there's our new pallet 100090 and our new carton 100091. They're now added to that shipment number 243, and all 3 of these packages are now grouped together throughout the rest of their life in the WiSys system through that shipment number there. And if we just refresh our inventory palette view as well, we'll see that new carton on there at the top. Now, if we want to undo that, pretty simple here. It's going to be easier for me to find because I have less stuff in pallets. I'm just going to go to undo our pallet here. So if I go into pallets, and I scroll down to unpack pallets, basically we can just undo everything that we just did. So, in this case, we already have other items on the shipment. So we didn't create a shipment number. We don't need to delete the shipment number. But what we need to do is we need to remove the package from the shipment. We need to destroy the package, and we need to return those items to a bin. So in this case, I'm just going to go to my 243, and my pallet number is 10090. So I'm going to enter that in. Then I'm going to select, or it's going to put it back into that staging bin there where it was created. I'm going to save. And now if we go back to our grids here, we're going to see we just simply unpacked, uncreated that pallet. That pallet is gone. And then if we go to our shipment, that shipment does not have that pallet on it. And we just we went back, we retraced our steps, and we deleted every single action that we went ahead and created there with packed pallets. Now, all that being said, typically, these pallets are created in the system and they stay how they are as shipping or inventory pallets in most cases. Most cases, a pallet's created for inventory, stays in inventory for its life cycle till it's torn down, and that's that. Or a pallet's created for shipping, it stays in inventory until it's shipped, and then it ships with its shipment and it's done. It goes to the customer. And there you go. Now we do have the option though to take an inventory pallet and stick it on a shipment. So for a customer who maybe they stock all their inventory in pallets, and let's say just on occasion, one of their customers orders an entire pallet of items, we want to be able to do that, right? So what we do here is on the handheld, instead of pack pallets, if I scroll all the way back up to the top, we're going to go to load pallets here. And load pallets is going to allow us to select our shipment or a new shipment, which in this case, I'm actually going to do a new shipment. So I'm going to hit enter. And then it's going to allow us to scan an order, see how many items we need for the order, and then find a pallet that can fulfill that order. So here I'm going to scan my order number. I'm going to scan my item. And then I am going to find a pallet with that item. So again, here we have this A0001, and earlier when we created some inventory pallets, that's what we used. So we're going to take a look at one of these. I need 6 to fulfill my order, and I created pallets of 6 earlier when I did that pallet build multiple. So we're just going to take this pallet 10083, and we're going to convert it from an inventory pallet to a shipping pallet using our load pallets form on the handheld here. So we're going to go to 10083, hit enter. And after this goes through, that pallet is now added to a new shipment. So you saw we created a new shipment here. This is number 244. If I refresh my grid, 10083 will now have a shipment number and a load date. In this case, we add that load date there because we want to be able to identify, okay, that pallet was added to a shipment at some point. This was the day that happened. So your create date, that's always going to come into play for when a pallet is created, whether it's an inventory pallet or a shipping pallet. But if we change a pallet or a package from being a plain inventory package to becoming a shipping package, we want to track that, and we track that through load date. So load date gets assigned to say, hey, we loaded this package to a shipment on this date. Now we can take a look at our shipment 244, and we should see our pallet that was once an inventory pallet now added to that shipment. And pretty similar to what we went through with pack pallets here, we can also just go ahead and retrace our steps and undo that process as well with the unload pallets form. So here for unload pallets, I'm just going to enter in my shipment number of 244. And then I'm going to enter in my pallet number here of 10083. I'm going to put a bin to move it to. So we'll just do 05A1 here. And then I'm going to just go ahead and enter in the date and time of when I'm doing this. This allows us to track back in the tables, okay, it was unloaded on this date. That's not actually showcased in our inventory palette view, but what you're going to notice is that load date never drops off the palette view because we still want to be aware that at some point in time we added that to a shipment, but we would add an unload date there so we can see, but also on this 214, we took it back off the shipment and that's why it's still in inventory. So now we save that here. And if we jump back in here, when I refresh, since this was the only package on the shipment, that form that we just used not only took the pallet off and moved it back into inventory, unassociating it with the shipment and moving it to a new bin, it also goes ahead and deletes the shipment for us because there's no longer any items on it. So if we refresh, shipment 244 not found, and you'll see here there's no items if there were a 244 in the system. If we jump back in and look at 10083 again and refresh, we'll see that shipment number dropped off. And like I said before, we will maintain a load date there for tracking purposes. So we know on this date it was loaded to a shipment. And then if we see, okay, it's not on a shipment, what happened there? If we need more information, we can, go into our tables and poke around and figure out, what day it was removed, who did it, what time they did it, and, get to the root cause of that. So those are the different ways to create each type of package in the system, whether it's an inventory package that's not associated to a shipment or a shipping package that is tied to a shipment, for the entire life of the item. Now, there's one last thing I want to show you, how to create here from within packaging, and then we can get to any questions you guys have. I wanted to talk about an inner pack. So this is something very unique to WiSys as well, something that a lot of our customers utilize, but they don't often realize that it's there at first. So if I go ahead, we'll just keep this 244. I'm going to create an inner pack, and the only way to do that is from the desktop out of the box. We can tailor forms to do it from a scanner gun. That again is fairly common, but out of the box, the only way to do so is from in here within Fulfillment Manager. So what I can do, I gotta recreate my shipment number actually, so 245. All right. So what I can do in here is I can add a pallet, and cartons are enabled to be interpacked onto pallets in the WiSys system. So what that means is I can group, a variety of license plate cartons. So let's say I take 50 cartons with, each has their own individual license plate. I can group those under the same license plate on a pallet. So here you see I added a carton, the line is indented in and it is yellow to show that it is interpacked onto that pallet. So if I went and I added another pallet here, we see that, okay, it's a different level. That carton is inside of that pallet. We can add as many cartons as necessary to a specific pallet and group packages into a package here. So now I'm going to just go ahead and add an item to this so that we can take a look at it in the grid. Scan. All right, this is serialized again, so it's going to prompt me for a serial here. All right, so now that carton's set up. If we jump over to inventory palette view, that 10093, we'll see it here on the grid. Here it is on the grid attached to 245, and now it's in the system here. Now, the big thing that we need to realize here about this is, okay, that carton's packed. How do we figure out in the data outside of just looking at it here on Fulfillment Manager, how do we figure out that it's actually attached to a pallet? We can do that through the tables. Of course, we could customize a grid to showcase that information too if a customer is using it, and that's probably something they do want to see in a fairly common customization in that case. So if we go here and we go to that package that we just created, let me look at that number again, 100093. Okay. So if we take a look at that package here, we'll notice we have this long alphanumeric package identification code there in parent ID. Now, again, if I take this off, typically what we're going to see in the table is that this parent ID is going to be null in most cases, right here. Parent ID is typically null. That means those are, packages that are just out there on their own. They're not grouped into another package. As soon as we group them into another package, that's where we see that parent ID get assigned. And that's how we know, okay, this is assigned to another package, even though it has its own license plate and it's its own entity within WiSys, it's also attached to another package in the system. So this obviously doesn't help us understand what pallet it's on because this is that unique identification number. So if we want to see what pallet that's on, we can simply go ahead and look at the package ID. Drop in my alphanumeric identifier here. And now we can see that that is pallet number 10092. And again, if we jump back to Fulfillment Manager, we'll see that that aligns. So that's how that looks in the system. That's something that we can do, and a lot of customers actually do want to take advantage of that and don't realize we have that availability. So now if you get that question from a customer, we have the availability. And if you were doing it with your own package types, so let's say it was a case where you had a customer who, maybe they ship cartons and they typically bottle, let's say they have like hand lotion or something like that, and they bottle it all into a package. They have that package in the system, and then they want to put those individual bottles into a carton. They would go in here, they would go and create a new shipping type or a new package type, which would be your bottle. So let's say BTL for bottle. And when they create that bottle, they'd be able to assign an parent here. So, in the case of cartons, which we just explored, cartons are assigned the parent type pallet in here, so that cartons can only be added to a pallet. You can't add a carton to, a container right now. If carton says pallets, that's what it can be added to. So if we want this bottle to be added to a carton, we can do that. And then we could actually require it as well, which again will force it'll force any bottles to be packed into a carton in the system if we wanted to require that. And now if we created that here, we would have this package type of bottle, which could be then interpacked onto a carton, and several bottles could be grouped together onto one carton. So again, that's another piece of the packaging layer that's important to identify, is the ability to pack packages into other packages, as we see here, and take advantage of kind of doubling down on that layer there. So I know we covered a lot today. If it'll let me get over here. I know we covered a lot today, but that is all that I wanted to cover as far as how the packaging layer works. So just to reiterate here, we went through a little overview of what Agility Pallets is as a product, and what the packaging layer is as a whole, and some of the key features of the packaging layer. We talked about, the different package types that you can have, how to create them, what that data looks like in the system, and what tables it resides in, which again, if you're looking for packages in the WiSys system, 3 main tables. WSPKG is the header package information. WSPKG line is the individual line item information per package, and WSPKGSL, the serial and lot information for each package line. Then we discussed the 2 main types of packages or styles of packages in Agility and how to create them, which again are inventory packages and shipping packages. Shipping packages, of course, will always be related to a shipment in the system. And lastly, we talked about how to interpack, a way to kind of double down on that packaging, on that packaging license plate tracking feature there, and a way to pack a package inside of a package. So I know that's a lot to cover today. Again, if you need additional enablement or you have questions about this, reach out to me, because I'm sure there's going to be plenty more questions. But I have Aaron here with me. He's looking at the chat, and he's going to go ahead and.
I do have a question, and I pretty much can answer this directly. Is just a reminder. I think somebody missed this, but the packaging layer comes with Agility Pallets module in WiSys, and that's available in the Enterprise Edition. So when you buy Enterprise, you will receive the pallet management, which includes that packaging layer, as well as fulfillment and Agility shipping. So that's our all-encompassing licensing model for WiSys at that enterprise level. So that was just one quick question they had there. Also another one was, you can load pallets from a handheld too, and we didn't really show that when we showed loading a carton, or vice versa. Cartons or pallets can be loaded from a handheld onto a shipment as well. So
Yeah, one thing about that too. So what we showed was loading a pallet. We didn't show loading a carton. Out of the box, I do want to
cartons.
mention we don't have load cartons out of the box. But again, if a customer,
That's right.
select cartons and wanted to load them, it is as simple as tailoring that form to pass in CTN instead of PLT. That's something I would have liked to show today, but I knew it would probably take a little too much time to get into the tools like that. But tailoring something to pass a different package type is very simple, and if you need to do that, reach out to me and we can discuss it. But it's not a very time consuming tailoring.
And Chase, one of the big ones that a lot of prospects ask us directly is about container management, and this is where you would obviously using that packaging layer would allow you to enable some container management within WiSys. So when people do ask us if we have container management, this is the actual application. We would use our design tools to create for them applications for container management as well. So we can handle that.
Of course, yeah.
See if there's any other questions, yeah.
Yeah, and as we have customers that use, a lot of different types of packages in the WiSys system, containers is, fairly common as far as adding a custom package type into WiSys. And, as me and Aaron both discussed here, there's not a ton going into that as compared to other tailorings you'll have to do with the product. That's something.
Yeah, pretty easy, right?
Cool.
Yeah, and then obviously different container sizes, package sizes you could have in there as well. So that's always a big question people ask. They have unique standardized packaging for their products that they will have set up in WiSys to be default carton sizes for when they do ship and pack packages there, pack shipments, that is using the fulfillment manager. So the desktop application that runs in WiSys, Chase is doing that in the Agility desktop license, or Agility Explorer as we call it. That can be run standalone on a packing station computer out in the warehouse to pack and ship packages. That can also be run within the menu structure of SAP in our Agility Explorer. So there's many ways to access that and many different roles that you can give access to that functionality for someone to be able to pack and ship. So yeah, great job, Chase. Very informative. I wish I had this when I was here starting at WiSys so long ago, but you do a very good job talking about it. Are there any other questions before we leave today? All right.